In the year 2325, humanity had expanded beyond Earth's boundaries, establishing colonies and creating a fragile peace across the galaxy. However, this peace was threatened by the presence of the Sargathians, a fierce alien race from the distant planet Zeroth. The Sargathians were known for their dominance and brutal conquest of planets, and for centuries they had despised humanity. Among the Sargathians, one figure stood out as both feared and revered: Princess Vashari. A leader in her people's military, she had been trained to hate all humans with a burning passion. For her, they were inferior creatures, nothing more than ants to be crushed under her heel. Her hatred wasn't blind. It was built on centuries of Sargathian history, where humans had resisted their rule in the early stages of the Galactic Federation. Vashari's people believed that humanity posed a threat to the natural order, and it was her life's goal to destroy that threat. The war between humans and the Sargathians reached its peak when a fleet of Sargathian warships invaded a human colony on the edge of the galaxy. The humans fought back fiercely, and amidst the chaos, Princess Vashari was captured. She was not killed in the battle, as her captors knew her value would be far more beneficial alive, both as a symbol and a bargaining chip. I was the captain of the human fleet that captured her, a young, ambitious officer named Captain Jason Sterling. I had risen through the ranks quickly, not only because of my skill, but also because of my fierce determination to protect humanity at all costs. When I learned we had captured Princess Vashari, I was ordered to take her to the human capital, where she would be interrogated and eventually exchanged for prisoners of war. However, the moment I laid eyes on her, something unexpected happened. Vashari stood before me, her regal alien features striking even in captivity. Her long, silver hair cascaded down her back, and her violet eyes burned with an intense hatred. She was tall, her body strong, with a sleek, muscular build. Her attire was regal and formal, with intricate markings that denoted her high rank. Yet, behind her hatred and the warrior mask, there was an undeniable beauty. "You think you can break me, human?" she sneered, her voice cold and regal. "You will never defeat my people." I met her gaze with an unyielding stare, unfazed by her words. "We'll see about that, princess." But as the days passed, something strange began to happen. As we traveled to the capital, I had to keep her under close guard. She wasn't just a symbol of enemy leadership. She was also a tactical asset, and her knowledge of the Sargathians was invaluable. Despite her venomous attitude, she found herself slowly drawn into conversations with me. At first, I thought it was simply a survival instinct, but as time went on, I began to realize there was something more, something that went beyond hatred. "You really believe in this humanity is good nonsense?" she asked me one evening, her voice laced with genuine curiosity despite the disdain she tried to hide. I looked at her, my eyes narrowing. "Yes, I do. I believe humanity can rise above the mistakes of its past and make a difference in the galaxy." "Ah," she scoffed, "you are as naive as the rest of them. We will destroy your kind." I smiled, the sharpness of her words not affecting me. "Then why are you still talking to me?" Vashari's expression faltered, but she quickly regained her composure. I had made her doubt herself. It wasn't much, but it was enough to create a spark of interest. Over the next few weeks, I continued to engage her in conversation. Slowly, she began to open up, revealing a side of herself I had not expected. She wasn't the cold, calculating monster I had imagined. Beneath her hatred was a sense of duty, and beneath that vulnerability, she spoke of the pressures of her people, the constant need to prove themselves superior. She had been raised to hate humanity not out of choice, but out of cultural indoctrination. "You don't know what it's like to be born into this role," she said one night. "To have every action scrutinized, to have your worth defined by how well you destroy others." I could see the pain in her eyes, the weight of her responsibilities bearing down on her. It was then that I realized that she was not so different from the rest of us. She was a product of her environment, just like any human would be. But despite our growing rapport, I still had to remain vigilant. Vashari was still a prisoner, a symbol of the enemy, and a potential danger. However, I couldn't help but wonder if there was a way to change things, if there was a way to bridge the gap between our two worlds. The war, however, was far from over. As we neared the human capital, a new crisis unfolded. A rogue Sargathian faction, one led by a radical general who did not recognize Vashari's capture, launched a full-scale assault on the capital. I knew what I had to do. I couldn't let Vashari's people destroy everything we had worked for, but I also couldn't ignore the undeniable connection we had forged. I had to make a decision. "Princess, I need your help," I said, looking at her seriously. "If we don't work together, we're going to lose everything." She stared at me, the storm of emotions visible in her eyes. "And why should I help you, human? My people would never forgive me." "Because," I said, "sometimes we have to fight for something greater than ourselves." To my surprise, she didn't hesitate. "Very well, Captain. Let's end this war." The alliance we formed that day turned the tide of the battle. With Vashari's inside knowledge of the Sargathian fleet and my strategic planning, we managed to cripple the rogue faction and force them to surrender. But our victory came with unforeseen consequences. During the aftermath, something unexpected happened. Vashari, once a symbol of hate, began to see humanity in a new light. I, too, began to realize that she was more than just the enemy princess. She was a woman caught in a world of war, much like I was. One night, after the battle, we found ourselves alone in the quiet of the ship's observation deck. I could see the stars outside, a vast and endless universe. "You were right," she said quietly. "Perhaps there is more to this human thing than I thought." I walked up to her, my heart pounding. "And what about us?" She looked at me, her eyes softening. "I don't know what the future holds, Captain, but I know that you've changed me." It was then that we realized that what had started as hatred had slowly turned into something more, something neither of us had expected. Months passed, and the peace we had fought for began to take root. Vashari and I, once enemies, became allies, working side by side to heal the wounds of war. Eventually, our connection grew into something deeper. We didn't just share a common cause. We shared a bond neither of us had anticipated. It was on a quiet morning, weeks after the war had ended, that Vashari came to me with a shocking revelation. I am carrying your child," she said, her voice trembling. I stared at her in disbelief, unsure how to react. But then, looking into her eyes, I realized that this child was not just a symbol of our union. It was the beginning of something new, a future where humans and Sargathians could coexist. Together, we would change the galaxy one step at a time. The princess who had once hated humans was now carrying the child of the man she had once considered an enemy. And in that moment, I knew that we were no longer defined by the hatred of our past. We were the beginning of a new era. And so, the war ended, not with the fall of one side, but with the rise of a new hope. One where even the deepest divisions could be healed, and where love, born from the unlikeliest of places, could change the course of history forever.